welcome. This is the Market Wrap. I'm Agam Vakil. We've seen some amount of weakness in the benchmark indices, specifically in the last, 1 hour of trade, on the back of which we've seen the Nifty come off to a certain extent after hitting life highs. So currently the Nifty, and in fact trading, or rather closing below the mark of 11,700. So we've seen quite a bit of weakness after it hit that lifetime high coming through. Indiabulls Housing Finance, Maruti Suzuki and Bajaj Finserv, along with HCL Technologies, are the only 4 stocks on the Nifty 50 which ended with gains of more than 1%. If you leave that aside, we're actually seeing a lot of weakness in the likes of BPCL, Z Entertainment, Indian Oil Corp, GAIL India and State Bank of India. So, well, the OMC pack, of course, is quite weak, but we also have some weakness in the likes of State Bank of India and Yes Bank. So keep an eye on that one. And as one might expect, the picture is not very different when it comes to the advanced decline ratio for the NSE 500. So we have about 1 gainer for 2 losers, and a complete reversal from what we saw yesterday, snapping a 4-day gaining streak. As far as though that index is concerned, JP Associates, Sharda Cropchem and Deepak Fertilizers along with Orient Cement advancing in trade, and some gains seen in Triveni Turbine and General Insurance. But SL Propack on the other hand down 7.5%. Amara Raja Batteries is something that we're going to talk about today, about GSW Energy, Vodafone, Jet Airways, of course, with the grounding of another 15 aircraft. Syndicate Bank along with Century Plyboard all losing out in trade. But I'm going to get in our markets editor Neeraj Shah for his perspective there. Neeraj Shah, what do you think has gone wrong, or is this just a bout of, well, should I say just a pause before we see a further up move?
Well, million-dollar question, yeah. And one which wouldn't have an answer as easy. Could it be that after heady run and valuations, at least on the PE basis, which are looking sky high, though Rhythm believes that that's not the right way to look at it.
Yes.
Maybe a bit of a pause coming in. Could it be that before the policy, people have taken some bets off the table? Yeah. Because you never know what the policy could deliver. So maybe that's the other reason that could have happened, because the world markets were okay. Dow futures were in the green. Europe was doing okay. So this was our own doing. The only thing that I would reckon could have happened today was some bit of uncertainty ahead of the policy. We were talking about it in the morning, that how the markets may not be able to take a large bet ahead of the policy, even though most people would believe that the outcome for the policy is known. So one would reckon that would be the case. And if indeed the market is to move higher, then maybe post-policy tomorrow, you will start seeing that. Remember, the time of the policy is changed now. It's no longer at 2:30. It usually comes in at about 11:30 now. Right. Since at least the last time and this time. Absolutely. So 11:30 a.m. tomorrow, we'll get to know more about this. But until then, difficult to believe whether this would move up or no. No particular reasons. Brent too hasn't really moved up in a meaningful way. The last I checked was just about 0.5%. Right. So nothing new. Let's wait and watch. Okay, the policy it is. That's what we're going to keep an eye on. Thanks, Neeraj, for bringing us that perspective. But from there, let's talk about a bunch of stocks. I'm going to start with the Amara Raja Batteries, which was one of the biggest losers on the NSE 500. In fact, after SL Propack, it was the biggest loser, down 6.7% today. And I'm going to get in Yatin Mota to talk to us about that. Yatin, what's happening with Amara Raja Batteries? So,
Agam, as you mentioned, a 10%, kind of an intraday move on the downside we saw for Amara Raja. That came in after the company announced to the stock exchanges that they are terminating their almost 2-decade-old shareholders purchase agreement as well as license agreement with Johnson Controls. Now remember, both Johnson Controls and the Indian promoters hold 26% each. Of the 26% that Johnson Controls holds, 2% was bought by the promoters according to the press release that they have sent to the stock exchanges. And more importantly, one point where the market is concerned about, Johnson Controls in November 2018 has decided to divest its power solution business to Brookfield. Now the question is that if Brookfield wants to sell out the stake, if Johnson Controls sells the stake in the open market, that is a concern point. So it's not clear at this point in time to investors if both Johnson Controls and Brookfields are willing to hold on to the investments, or would they sell it in the open markets. And because of that concern, probably we saw the shares turn nervous in trade today. Right. What happens to the license agreement, what happens to the technology is another question. But the release says that the company is not worried on that front. It's business as usual, and there is no impact of the termination of the license agreement. Right. But either Johnson Controls or Brookfield selling shares in open market is something which is a hangover at the share price at this point in time.
Yes.
So let's see. We have contacted all of the stakeholders. Hopefully, we'll get a revert and more clarity on the issue from all of them.
Absolutely. Well, Yatin, thank you for joining us and getting us those details on Amara Raja batteries. So we're awaiting more details there. But the other stock that I want to address is Morocco. Of course, we've had the management come in and give us a Q4 update through a press release on the exchanges, and they have suggested that demand is stable, and they've actually seen improvements in a lot of parameters, including the franchises, which will include something like a Parachute, or for that matter Saffola, which is relatively stronger for this particular quarter, because of which they are looking at some strength come through. And if you leave that aside, in terms of concerns, there were only two largely. One, of course, was some sluggishness that they've seen in their wholesale channels, and the second one was their value-added hair oil business, which has seen some amount of weakness. But if you leave these issues aside, the management seems positive, and on the back of which we have a lot of broking houses which have also remained positive on Morocco going in. Well, we're awaiting its earnings, which will be announced sometime over the course of the next few weeks, and we will know eventually how Morocco has done. But until then, we're just going to have to keep an eye on the stock. For now, however, we are keeping an eye on what happens in tomorrow's credit policy by the Reserve Bank of India. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the Market Wrap. I lost my line up. Stay tuned to Bloomberg.